Albert, Keisha, and I get off the bus for our class trip to the Noah Webster house. With no written work today, I'm thinking it will be a silver dollar day. Albert starts collecting acorns from the ground and filling his pockets. I'm tempted to ask why, but I'm afraid the answer will take an hour. Oliver picks up acorns and whips them at the trees. Max joins in. Max hits a tree every time. Oliver, not so much. Mr. Daniels walks over and says something to make them stop. I pick an acorn up too, and it reminds me of a little Frenchman with a pointed chin, perfectly shaved head, and a little beret. I name him Pierre and stick him in my pocket. I decide that I'll do a drawing of him later, maybe dancing with a lady at the Eiffel Tower. My grandpa always said he was going to take me to see it. Albert's pockets are bulging by the time we line up to go inside. Shay is rolling her eyes at him and laughing. When Mr. Daniels looks in her direction, she stops like she has an on-off switch. When he looks away, she laughs at Albert again. Don't laugh at him, I say. Fine, she says. I'll laugh at you. I don't care if you laugh at me. Albert just stands there looking a little lost. Albert, I whisper, why won't you tell them to go jump in a lake, or at least to leave you alone? Albert, Keisha talks to him in a you better listen to me voice. Hunched over and silent is no way to meet the world. Albert bends over, picking up more acorns. He looks up at us. It isn't logical, he says. It will only let them know it bothers me. So it does bother you, I ask? He stands up straight. Well, no one likes to be insulted, but let's say that my worry about Shay is a drop of water in the ocean compared to my other worry right now. What's that? I ask. These acorns, he says, holding one up. This green coloring on the side looks like moss, but I am concerned that it is actually a fungus. If this is the case, all of these trees may be in danger. I have collected samples and will do further research. I lean in and look at the acorn. I like how Albert cares and is able to see things that other people wouldn't. But I wish Albert would care about himself as much as the scientific world. Mr. Daniels puts us into groups. I pray that I end up in his group or with Keisha and Albert. I get part of my wish and am in a group with Albert. Mr. Daniels is with a bunch of boys, including Oliver and Max. We get the drill about behaving, things being old, and how we're not supposed to touch them. We break into our groups and head upstairs and into a bedroom. So, our guide says, straightening her bonnet, does anyone know where the term sleep tight came from? Albert raises his hand and she calls on him with a smile. Albert points to the underside of the bed. Mattresses were held up with rope, so they were off the floor and away from the bugs. When the mattresses would sag, they'd tighten the ropes, making the bed more comfortable. Hence the saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Well, if anyone would know about bed bugs, he would, Shay whispers. Downstairs in the kitchen, the fireplace is big enough to stand in. The lady tells us that girls didn't go to school as much as boys, that they typically stayed at home to learn how to take care of the house. My mind bites into that, and I can't stop thinking about it. No more school. Ever. I lean over. Albert, do you think that time travel is possible? He whispers. Albert Einstein had extensive theories on its possibilities, and I certainly wouldn't argue with him. Me neither, I say to him. How do you think I would look in one of those dresses and bonnets? He looks puzzled. Finally, we go to a colonial schoolroom and join the rest of our class. A lady talks about what a visionary Noah Webster was to create the first American spellers and dictionaries. Before that, people used to just make up spellings. There were no right or wrong ways to spell. Some visionary. This spelling stuff is all his fault, since he's the one who got it in his head that we all needed to spell the same way. I'm thinking Noah Webster was a scoundrel, and they should have put him in jail for this. The lady tells us it took him 20 years to write the dictionary, and he also wrote the first school books and grammar books. I think he must have been tipped off his rocker, as Grandpa used to say. Students in colonial times didn't use paper and pencils like you do now. The lady holds up a little chalkboard in a wooden frame. They used slates like these and wrote their answers down to show their teacher. She passes out slates, which are fun to write on. I draw a picture of Pierre with his beret and wish I had some green chalk to add a little smudge in honor of Albert. The woman takes out a pointed white hat. Now, this is something teachers began to use in schools toward the end of Noah Webster's life. It is called a dunce cap. As a punishment for misbehavior, a child would have to wear it and stand in the corner facing the wall. I hear giggling. Shay is showing her slate to a bunch of other kids. There is a head wearing a dunce hat, and Allie is written underneath. What's the fuss about? The guide asks as she walks over. Then she turns to them. That isn't very nice. Erase that, please. I stand, willing the tears that come to my eyes to stop, knowing they will only give everyone more to make fun of. Asks me. Everyone is quiet now. They are all watching me. It's worse than the laughing. So I run out of the room and out of the museum. A woman calls to me, but I keep going. Out the door and around the back, across the lawn of a beautiful light green house. I find a swing set which reminds me of my grandpa and how we spent hours on them at the park. I try to think about what he'd say now, and am sad that it's hard for me to remember his voice exactly. My hands slide down the chains as I sit on the seat, thinking of when I was little, when my world wasn't such a heavy place. I used to love to swing as high as I could, leaning back, reaching for a bright blue sky with my feet, and it made me feel like I could do anything, reach anything. I lean my cheek against the cool chain, feeling like I can't reach anything anymore. Then the tears come. And then, standing in front of me, are feet, and the shoes on them belong to Mr. Daniels. He stands for a while without saying anything until he finally says my name. All I can do to respond is sniff. Can you tell me what happened in there? I don't know what to say. Such a small question and such a giant answer. Please just leave me alone. He takes a couple of steps away and stays quiet for a bit. Then he says, my brother and I used to love to write in the sand on the beach when my family would go to Maine. I don't answer him. Then he picks up a stick and writes something in the dirt under the swing next to me. More words. Why can't I ever get away from words? He turns toward me and I stare at his knees. Allie, he says, holding out the stick. Do you want to write something? I shake my head. I think of flying on swings through bright blue skies and away from words like dumb and freak and loser. He squats down in front of me. I'm sorry about whatever it was that upset you. Let me help. I take a deep breath, and when I let it all out, the words come with it. Nobody is ever going to be able to help me. Not ever. They all said I should have a dunce cap, and they're right. That's the thing. They're right. Oh my. Allie, you actually believe that, don't you? I can hear that it's a shock to him. I finally look up at him. Why wouldn't I? Because you are most certainly not dumb, Allie. You're just saying that. No, I'm not actually. For one, you are amazing on those bus driver math problems. You're one of the kids who gets the really harder ones correct. I look up into his face with bright sun behind him and blurt out, but how come I can't read? It's the first time I've ever asked the question out loud. I guess because I'm so desperate for an answer. Oh, Allie, he says, this thing that makes school hard for you, I think you might have something called dyslexia. And it means that although it's hard for you to read, it doesn't mean you're dumb. He laughs a little. In fact, you, Allie Nickerson, are far from it. Your brain just figures things out differently than other people. I'm different. He's got that right. But no way am I smart like he says. You don't understand. Yeah, Allie, I think I do. Then he leans in. And you know what? You're brave. I so want to be brave, but I'm not. Coming to school every day, knowing what you're in for, knowing school will be hard, and that other kids are going to razz you. And you still come every day and decide that you're going to try again. I stay quiet, just thinking about what he said, hoping he knows what he's talking about. And you know something else? In some ways, you're a lot smarter than other kids. You can also do things they can't. For one, you're an amazing artist. Those drawings of yours, wow, Allie, you've got talent there. What do you think about that? I think it's like saying, I'm sorry, you're going to die, but at least people are going to bring you flowers. He laughs really hard now. See that? Seriously, Allie. Only smart people say things like that. His voice drops. It's going to be okay, kiddo. I have never hoped for something so much like this. You and I are going to figure this out together. As a matter of fact, I already spoke to Mrs. Silver and Mrs. Kessler, the reading consultant at school. I was already planning to call your mom and talk to you tomorrow. We're going to give you some tests. I deflate. Oh no, please, no tests. Not the tests you're used to. You'll see. These are more like puzzles and games than tests, but the results will help us help you. I feel like I can look up for the first time. You are smart, Allie, and you are going to learn to read. A chill runs through my whole body. I don't have any choice but to believe him because I can't go another day thinking things will be like this forever. I wipe the tears from my face with the back of my hand. He stands up and we start walking back. Mr. Daniels looks up at that bright blue sky and says, Now, don't be so hard on yourself, okay? You know, a wise person once said, everyone is smart in different ways. But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking that it's stupid. I think hard about that. Could it be that simple? A mind movie flickers in my brain of an angry fish at the bottom of a tree, banging on the trunk with its fins and complaining that it can't climb it. I think of a turtle making a sandwich, a snake playing the violin, an elephant knitting, penguins playing basketball, an eagle scuba diving. But mostly, I hope with every tiny bit of myself that Mr. Daniels is right about all of this. Chapter 30, Miserable King. 2 days later, a lady named Miss Kessler pulls me out of class early in the day to give me some tests. Mr. Daniels is right. They are more like puzzles and games than those awful bubble tests we do, where I just fill in circles without even reading the questions. She's really nice, like Mr. Daniels. After school, Mr. Daniels is setting up a chessboard and pieces at the reading table. I walk over and he looks up. So, did your mom tell you that I called? Yeah, she didn't say much though. She usually has a lot to say about everything. He laughs. Moms usually do. He motions toward the chair. Have a seat. I pull out the chair, wondering what this is all about. Okay, he says, loosening his tie like we're about to do some serious work. Chess is a game about planning. It isn't like other games where you just capture the powerful piece. He points to a piece with a cross on top. This is the king. The object of the game is to trap your opponent's king, but not actually capture it. When you put your piece in a place where it could take the other king, it's called check. When you give the other king absolutely nowhere to go, it's called checkmate. And that's how you win. Normally I would be nervous and my mind would go blank, but he just has this relaxing way. His voice makes me calm. Maybe because I know he will never say anything mean, call me lazy or dumb. And I know he wouldn't think it either. Got that so far? I nod. So then, are you going to capture my king? I hesitate. Did I mess up already? Didn't you say that you don't capture it? That you just make it miserable? He laughs. Yes, I did say that. Good, Allie. Good listening. So he goes through the rest of the pieces. The queen is the most powerful and can travel in a straight line in any direction. There are 8 pawns that, when you band them together, can be strong. Most players take them for granted, though. He tells me that's a mistake. The rooks look like castles and travel in forward, backward, and side-to-side lines across the whole board. The bishops travel diagonally in straight lines, and the knights can jump in an L shape. The king can only move one spot in any direction. It stinks to be the one with the target on your back and be the one who can't go anywhere. He has made up a sheet with pictures of the pieces and arrows to show how they move. He says it is in case I need a reminder. I turn it over, looking him square in the eye, and say, I don't need that. He smiles a little, but never takes his eyes off of me as he reaches down and moves one of his pawns. Good then. When I start to make some dumb moves, he asks, Are you sure you want to do that? The first game ends fast, but on the second game, I capture his queen, the most powerful piece on the board. I stand up so fast, my knees push my chair back and it falls over. I want to ask if he let me do that, but I'm afraid of his answer. He holds up his hand to high-five me. Well done. And it is so weird. I don't have trouble with this game. I like it. I like planning what I will do to trap his pieces. He shows me how you can work it so you put your piece in a place where it can choose between taking two different pieces. Then your opponent has to choose which one to let go. It's called a fork. I love the look on his face when I manage one of those and take his bishop. Like it hurts a little, but he likes it too. The longer we play, the better I can see it in my head. I can see what the board will look like a couple of moves from now. I learn to predict what he might do. I see a mind movie where the chess pieces come to life. They can travel around on the board all day by themselves, and they are happy that they don't have to just stand there and wait for somebody to pick them up and move them. I know how relieved they are being able to do something for themselves. Lots of ways home. So, did your mom tell you that we talked? Mr. Daniels asks. Yeah, I take a long breath, noticing that I can feel my own heart beating. I have to talk to you about something. This doesn't sound good. I need your help. You need my help? Yes, I do. You know how Miss Kessler gave you those tests? Yeah. Well, it appears you do have dyslexia, which, like I said, makes learning to read difficult, but doesn't mean you're not bright. In fact, he says, half smiling like Travis, you're very bright. The tests show that too. I shift in my seat. But you will need some help with learning to read better, and we're going to get it for you. Thing is, it might take a little time. Sometimes the paperwork and meetings around that take a while. Okay. You know how I said we can't play chess on Tuesday or Thursday? Well, that's because I'm taking classes to get a degree in special education. Basically, it's a degree to help me help kids like you. Kids who are smart but have learning differences. Smart? Learning differences? So I spoke with Mrs. Silver and Miss Kessler, he leans forward, and your mom, of course, and we were thinking that I could help you after school a couple times a week until we can get you into formal services here at school. I open my mouth, but he holds up his hands. I know. Staying after school with me will be torture, but it would really help me out with the projects I have going on for my degree. You'd be doing me a huge favor, and I'd be so grateful, Allie. He leans forward. So? I swallow hard. I'm not dumb. I know I'm not doing him a favor as much as he's doing me one. And I can't believe or imagine what I've done to deserve help like this. Stay after school? I'd sleep at school if it would help. I nod, and we shake on it, and he looks kind of dopey and happy. I shift in my seat again. But can I ask a question? Sure. What are learning differences? Oh, okay, he thinks. When you ride your bike home, is there more than one way to go? Yeah, I thought so, he says. Well, just like there are different ways for you to get home, Allie, there are different ways for information to reach the brain. You have 5 senses, right? Taste, smell, sight, hearing, and touch. I nod. So what if an alien landed in a spaceship and you had to explain what the word frozen means without using the sense of touch? What if you had to use just words? I think that would be hard, do you? Yeah, it would. I think you've had some trouble learning words with just your eyes. We're going to incorporate more of your senses to practice letters and sounds, and I want you to relax about it. We'll have fun. I won't give homework on this. No test to study for or anything like that, okay? I nod. Have you liked playing chess? I nod, hoping we can play today. I had a feeling you would be good at it. I think your mind learns in pictures, and it helps you be a really good chess player. We've played several times now, and you have learned it fast and improved a lot without much time. Also, thinking in pictures, he leans forward, is one of the reasons you are such a good artist. Okay, I say, thinking all of this sounds good so far. The only thing that worries me is that it won't work. I still won't be able to read. Good then, he says. We're going to practice writing letters, but we won't use paper and pencil. He pulls out a huge metal sheet and hands me a bottle of shaving cream. We're going to use this, and by writing in shaving cream, you'll use sight and touch, and write large enough to use your whole arm. Just more ways for the signals to get delivered to your amazing brain. I smile. Now, fill that giant sheet with foam and let's get started. As I draw my finger through the gooey cream, I think about the words learning differences, and I'm filled with fear and happiness and questions, but I'm mostly filled with hope. Chapter 32, Scream Time. The day has been pretty good, and it just keeps coming. When I get outside, Mom and Travis are waiting for me in the car. We're going to head over to a friend's house to use their computer to Skype with your dad, my mom says. We are all missing him so much. I thought it would be good. The screen flickers at first, but then there he is, in his tan fatigues. Daddy, I say, not able to hold it in and sounding like a little kid. Allie Bug, you're so big. How are you, sweetheart? I'm good, Daddy. How are you? I'm good, but homesick. I sure miss you guys. I think how there's a word for him missing home, but not a word for us missing him. He holds up some of my pictures. I love the pictures you sent. I hang them up around my bunk. The other guys are jealous. He winks. I can tell that Mom wants to cry, but she doesn't. She says that being a soldier's wife means being strong for him. She doesn't want him to know how hard it is without him here. He has enough to worry about over there. I sometimes wish she would tell him. I sometimes wonder if he would just come home if he knew. Good, Daddy. I miss you so much. I miss you too, honey. You know I do. How are things? More silver dollar days or wooden nickels? Some of each, I think, but more silver dollars lately. My teacher is cool. He is. And I can't even explain it in words. He's great. That's terrific, sweetheart. And I have two friends, Keisha and Albert. Keisha likes to bake and she's brave. You'd like her, Daddy. And Albert is like a computer. He's so smart. He's a little nuts, though. He's been telling us how he loves all of the standardized testing. He actually thinks it's fun. Fun? Testing? He sounds like a different kind of guy. He is, and there's a girl named Shay at school who isn't very nice to me. I feel rushed, like I have to get everything fast. Well, you always run into people like that. You can hold your own, I bet. Mom pats me on the back. Have to give Travis some time, honey. Okay. And I watch a movie of myself being strong and saying goodbye and not crying. But I want to be able to step through that screen and wrap my arms around my daddy. It feels like a part of us all is missing, and we won't be whole again until he's home. Hey, Dad says. Remember, Allie Bug, I love you. There isn't anything in the world I love more than you, your brother, and your mom. I nod. Travis sits down next. Hey, son, how are the big plans coming? Not so great. What's going on? Nothing, Travis says. Come on, maybe I can help. Travis glances at Mom and me. Well, this new manager came in at the garage. The old guy used to let me do my thing, but this one hangs over me, always asking me to follow the specs in the manuals. If I do something, he wants to know what page I looked it up on. I know how to work on different cars. I don't need to look it up. My dad takes a long, slow breath. Well, that does sound rough. Have you tried talking to the guy or having him talk to the old boss? The old boss is out with back surgery for a while. Travis shakes his head. This new guy, he just doesn't get me. His voice cracks. My father leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Now he looks like he wants to crawl through the screen. You'll get there. I know you will. And this is temporary. Just try to work hard and learn everything you can. Travis nods but looks at the floor. I hear him mumble, there are some things I just can't learn. I'm proud of you, Trav. You know that. He clears his throat. I'm sorry I'm not there with you. Yeah. Travis looks up at the screen. Love you, Dad. Love you too, son. Hang in there. It will get better. Travis nods, but I can tell he isn't buying it. Then he stands. Come on, Squirt. Let's give Mom and Dad some time. Why? He pulls me over. So they can talk mushy in private, that's why. We sit down at the kitchen table, and Mom's friend gives us sodas. Travis cracks open his and takes a deep breath. What? I'm just so frustrated, Al. There's so much I want to do, but I want to help him. Maybe we could head out to some junkyards like we used to and see if we can find something worth fixing up. Maybe. I'd love to find another old Coke machine or something in someone's barn, buy it cheap and fix it up on my own. He looks at me. You know I can turn almost anything around for some good money. The words are the same, but they are heavy. There's no wiggling fingers or talk of being a genius. And my brother looks so serious. I know you'll have Nickerson restoration someday, Travis, and it will be part mine because of the name, right? He turns back and laughs, but it isn't real. He spends the rest of the time looking out the window, and I rack my brain trying to figure out what I can do. Mom calls us back to say goodbye. Dad puts his hand on the screen. All three of us put our hands on the screen, too. Just as he flickers away, Mom leans over and leaves a lipstick kiss on the glass. Then she rests her forehead there and stays a while. 3. Possibilities. Working with Mr. Daniels gets easier because I'm happy, but the work is really hard for me. He has written cat on the board and we talk about the sounds. I can only hear one sound, cat, but he says that the word cat has 3 separate sounds. It feels like he's telling me the sky is yellow. As I say each of the sounds, he has me tap them out on my fingers. It does seem to help. It forces me to make them separately, even though they are all one word. But it's a tiny word, and I worry what I'll do about whole books. Will I ever be able to do this? When we are done for the day, he leans back in his chair like Travis would. So, you are doing great, Allie. You really are. How are you feeling about all of this? I'm actually happy to do this extra work, and I never thought I'd ever say something like that. He smiles. Good. I'm glad. But, yeah? I guess I still wonder if I'll ever be able to read the same as other kids and be normal and not to have all this extra help. It seems impossible. He becomes serious. Then he takes out a piece of plain paper and pulls the cap off of a marker with his teeth. He begins to write, impossible. Do you know what that says? Remember to break it into chunks. This is a long one, though, isn't it? I nod, trying to sound it out. Important? No, but that's a good try. It says impossible. Like you just said. You told me you think it seems impossible to read as well as everyone else. Yeah, I say, wondering why he had to write it down for me. It's not like I need a reminder. Then he draws a red line between the M and the P and hands it to me. I am line POSSIBLE. I want you to rip the paper in 2 pieces, right where that line is. I do. So now, Allie, that big piece of paper in your hand says possible. There's no impossible anymore, okay? I swallow and look down at it, and I feel a little dizzy. The way he says it makes me feel like it could actually be true. Now, throw that little piece with the I am on it in the trash. It's gone forever. I walk over to the garbage and drop it in, watch it twist and spin as it falls. I look up and lock eyes with him and wish I had the words to tell him how grateful I am for his helping me. In this world of words, sometimes They just can't say everything. All right then, he nods. You head home. I have some homework to do or I'll lose my recess. Okay, I laugh, but I'm still thinking of the word on the paper. Thanks, I say, looking down on it. My pleasure, he replies, and takes a folder out of his briefcase. I stare at that word, Possible, all the way down the hallway. I study the red color. I draw my fingers over the letters. I even smell the paper so I can take it in somehow. I really want to believe. Chapter 34, Birth of a Star. Keisha, Albert, and I walked to Albert's after school. Keisha and I asked if we could come over and see his house, and he shrugged and said, okay. The whole time, my hand is in my pocket, holding onto that piece of paper. Possible. Albert's house is big but dark and dusty when we enter. There are piles of things everywhere. Not papers like our house. I mean piles of things with tubes and wires. Things I don't recognize. His mom greets us. Hey, Albert, you have guests? Her tone tells me that this never happens. Yes, I do. These are my friends, Keisha Almond and Allie Nickerson. Allie and Keisha, this is my mother, Audrey DuBois, he says, waving at each of us. And she comes over and shakes our hands. Can I get you anything to eat? She asks, sounding nervous. Albert pauses. No, thank you. We'll just go upstairs. His mom says okay as we are already following him up a skinny, twisty staircase. What kind of host, Keisha begins, doesn't allow his guests to have food? Dang it, Albert, I wouldn't have minded some. It wouldn't be logical to offer you something that doesn't exist. But she offered it to us, Keisha says. He opens his backpack and begins stacking his books on his desk like a pyramid. I can assure you that the refrigerator is quite empty. In fact, it hasn't been plugged in for a week. Oh, Keisha says, her voice getting quiet. I'm sorry, Albert. I really am. Now I know why his mom's voice sounded funny when she offered, and why he eats so much at school. Yeah, me too, I add. He turns, surprised. Why? Keisha scrunches up her face, the look she gets when she really can't figure him out. Well, I say, because you don't have food or a refrigerator. It must be terrible to be hungry and not be able to eat. And it's probably embarrassing for you. Maybe. I mean, I think it would be, I guess. He tilts his head. Filling the refrigerator does not fall within the parameters of my responsibilities. Therefore, the lack of food therein would have no reflection upon me whatsoever. We are silenced. I don't know about Keisha, but I couldn't answer that for $1,000,000. From the looks of her, I don't think she can either. I finally lift my gaze from his face to look around his room. Just a bed, a desk, and an empty trash can. The carpet and his blankets are all dark green, but his walls have colorful posters, all science related. There is one I like the most, a picture of outer space, but with every color you can think of all swirled together with an orange glow off to the side. It's beautiful, I pointed it. Albert, what is that? That is the birth of a star, the single most important thing that can happen in space. Well, the single most positive thing, anyway. It's beautiful, I say. He stares at it. Indeed it is, he says, sitting down at his desk. Keisha laughs. You're going to be a star one day, Albert. You'll do something amazing. I don't like... He shifts in his seat. I don't wish to be in the limelight. Limelight? I ask. I don't like a lot of attention. Well, you better get used to it, Albert, Keisha says, because there's no way on God's green earth that you won't have boatloads of it when you go out and cure cancer or discover another planet or something. That's my hope. I want to change the world, do something good. And then all of a sudden, I feel sad as Keisha goes on about how famous Albert will be, how he'll be written about in history books and stuff. Hey, Keisha says, poking me, why so serious over there? I'm thinking about the things Albert and Keisha will do and how I can't even read. I can't tell them that, though, so I try to sound happier. I'm not that serious. Oh, yes, you are. Dead serious. You need to smile. I am smiling, I say. Well, someone better tell your face about it. I hesitate. Can I tell you both a secret? I ask, reaching into my pocket to touch my possible paper that I've carried since I got it. Yeah, of course. And you won't tell anyone? Yes. Now, what's the secret we won't tell anyone? Because that's what the definition of secret is. Albert is quiet, but his head is tilted to the side. I've never really told anyone this, but I have a lot of trouble in school with reading and writing and, well, everything but math and art. Keisha laughs. That is not a secret. And then I feel terrible. I feel my eyes beginning to sting. I start walking away, but she pulls my sleeves and pulls me back. Albert looks upset. No, that's not what I mean. I mean that we know that, but it doesn't matter to us. However, Albert says, I do wish it was easier for you. We will not share your secret. Mr. Daniel says I have something called dyslexia, which makes it hard to read letters. That's why I've been staying after school so he can help me. Keisha is wide-eyed. Extra school after school? That's terrible. I mean, terrible. I want to tell her I'd spend the night at school hanging upside down in the closet if I could just read. I don't mind. He's nice to help me. And we'll help you, Albert says. But I worry that maybe he can't help me, I say. And then I mumble, it makes me feel like I'll grow up to be a nobody. How can you say that? Keisha asks. Well, you'll probably have some big successful baking company and Albert will do whatever in the world Albert will do. And I'm just hoping to read a menu in a restaurant. Keisha steps up and puts her arm around my shoulders. You say he's going to help you, right? You say, Albert adds and then pauses to think, that you'll grow up to be nobody. But logically, if nobody's perfect, well then, you must be perfect. Perfect? Me? No, I say. You are pretty perfect, Allie, Keisha says, laughing. Do like Mr. Daniel says. Be yourself. Be who you are. You know, Albert says, I've wondered about that saying, and I can't ever find an answer anywhere on the internet. What do you mean? I ask. Be yourself. You always hear that. So, Keisha asks, well, Albert begins, what if you don't know who you are? I get what he means, I think. People ask what you want to be when you grow up. I know what kind of grown-up I want to be, but I don't know who I am now. Albert stretches his legs out. There are always people ready to tell you who you are, like a nerd or a jerk or a wimp. I think how it's hard not to believe the bad stuff. Look at it this way, Albert says. If you had to be in a tank of water with a killer whale or a stonefish, which would you choose? Well, duh, who's going to choose a killer whale? Well, in the wild, killer whales never attack people, like never. A stonefish is way more dangerous with its 13 venomous spines. It's the words. If the killer whale were called the friendly whale, no one would be scared. And I think of words, the power they have, how they can be waved around like a wand, sometimes for good, like how Mr. Daniels uses them, how he makes kids like me and Oliver feel better about ourselves, and how words can also be used for that, to hurt. My grandpa used to say to be careful with eggs and words because neither can ever be fixed. The older I get, the more I realize how smart my grandpa was. Chapter 35. A picture is worth a gazillion words. We have a sub. This is bad news. Then it gets even worse. We begin with an assignment to write about a person that we know who is brave. I start to come up with reasons to get out of the assignment. Go to the nurse. I haven't yet met a sub who says no to a trip to the nurse when you tell them you're going to throw up on their shoes. I put on my sick look. Just as I'm about to raise my hand, the sub turns to the class. Where is Allie Nickerson? Huh? Freaky. I raise my hand. Oh, I have a note here that says you don't have to write, so you can just draw a picture of your person. My face gets hot. Well, that figures, Shay says. She can practice her coloring, and then there will be Play-Doh and nap time. My toes curl on my sneakers, and I slide down into my chair. The sub looks at Shay and shakes her head, but kids are already laughing, so what's the difference? The sub gives everyone else a piece of lined paper, and then she gives me a plain one. I sit stunned, wondering why Mr. Daniels would do this, betray me. Now I feel like I'm really going to throw up. I stand and have to concentrate on walking to move toward the door. Where are you going? The sub asks. Out. You come back here and do your picture. Now. I mean it. I'm finished. What are you talking about? It's blank. No, it's not blank. I drew a ghost in a blizzard. As the door slams behind me, I hear kids laughing at my answer. Soon I'm keeping Mrs. Silver's chair warm. So, Miss Nickerson, I must admit that I've enjoyed not seeing you lately. Things seem to be better with Mr. Daniels as your teacher. He's keeping you in line? Yeah, he's a peach, I say with cut in my voice. Are you going to call my mom? No, I don't think so. I want you to call her. Please call her. Why? Please? I ask. I don't even know why I'm asking exactly. She looks surprised but is silent. She dials the phone and talks for a bit, tells her that I've had a tough day. Then she hands the phone to me. She would like to speak with you. I take the phone from her. Allie, what in the world is going on? I try not to cry, I really do, but the tears leak from my eyes. Everything is so tight inside, and I'm so tired of it being this way. It's not like I wake up every day planning to be a failure. And I thought I had finally found someone to help me. And then Mr. Daniels pulls this. Allie, did you hear me? Mom, is all I can get out, but it's squeaky and filled with longing to pull her through the phone wires to sit with me. I hear it in her voice. She feels as upset as I do. Put Mrs. Silver back on the phone. Mrs. Silver listens for a bit and finally says, Oh, okay, Mrs. Nickerson. We'll be in touch then. I head to the bathroom and sit in a stall long enough for the evidence of crying to go away. When I get back to class, I ask Keisha to help me write a note, so I'm sure it's all correct. I leave it on Mr. Daniels' desk. I'm never reading after school or playing chess with you ever again. Not ever. That afternoon, I drop onto my usual spot at Peterson's. I wonder what my mom will say about the call from school. When she comes over, she kisses the top of my head, which says it all. So, a ghost in a blizzard, huh? She smiles at me. I half smile. Yeah. Pretty funny, I think. She leans over and puts her hand on my cheek, and it's everything I can do. Not to cry right there in front of everyone. I trusted him, I tell her. He was the first teacher who... And I stop because I can't say the words. You know, honey, I bet there's an explanation for this. I bet Mr. Daniels didn't mean for this to happen. Give him a chance, okay? I nod, and I hope she's right. But because I want to think that Mr. Daniels doing something mean to anyone is like a fish swimming upside down and backward.